Alternative for Germany.
AfD party.
The AfD, Alternative for Deutschland.
Should German businesses avoid contact with the popular far-right party Alternative for Germany, or AfD? That's a question companies and industry groups are now forced to confront. From the country's biggest bank to the Bakers Guild, a debate that's erupted once again after a major business association invited a member of the far-right AfD to one of its events. It's a debate which exposes the fracture where politics and business meet in Europe's largest economy.
The AfD basically has gone from being a fringe group of economics obsessed with the Eurozone to a party that has touched a lot of the voters in this country on big issues, things like immigration, things like business.
When the AfD, or Alternative for Germany, was founded during the Euro crisis in 2013, businesses could afford to overlook it. Its popularity grew as it focused on immigration in particular. In May 2025, the Domestic Intelligence Service labelled the party as far-right extremist. They have now paused the classification pending a court case.
Now in 2025, it's a party that is at the top of the polls, it is the largest party of opposition, and it is pushing a lot of the debate in this country and really managing to shape the debate and define the debate.
That's put the political mainstream in a bind. How do they hinder the AfD without alienating the roughly 1/4 of German voters surveyed who say they would vote for the AfD? Part of their response has been a political firewall.
The firewall is this idea that is not written down, but that parties do not govern or cooperate with the AfD. And that means that they will not pass laws with the AfD's votes, and they will certainly not go into government at regional or at national level with the AfD.
Businesses and industry groups have meanwhile typically avoided taking stances on specific parties. Recent elections have seen groups warning against the AfD and the far right in general, saying nationalistic language and anti-EU sentiment were dangerous for both society and economy.
So, for example, larger groups and larger businesses that really represent the kind of core of the German economy, an export-oriented economy that really depends on having well-educated, well-trained labor, and that depends on having access to export markets.
But with the growing AfD presence from the national parliament to the local level, the debate has sharpened to whether talking with the party counts as support.
That question has taken on even more focus since the security services have classified them as a right-wing extremist party, saying that they're a threat to the constitution. Now that's obviously being challenged in the courts, and the AfD deny that, but it meant that other political parties, associations, had to decide where we're going to work with and collaborate with a party that had this baggage.
When the Association of Family Businesses revealed it had invited an AfD member to one of its events, it kicked off a new debate about business ties to the party. The association's president issued a full-throated defence of her actions, saying other efforts to stem the rise of the AfD had failed.
The hope that you can change the minds of 1/4 of German voters through moral exclusion hasn't worked. The ideals of the AfD don't fit with our fundamental principles of market economy and freedom, which is why we're not afraid of a discussion with the AfD.
So we've heard this a lot in public debates, this idea that shutting out the AfD in recent years has simply failed because we've seen them grow to become the largest party in opposition and in some polls the largest party in the country.
Other associations chimed in and appeared to agree. A trade group for bakeries and an association of land and forest owners both saying in separate statements they rejected the idea of a firewall, despite each saying they disagreed vehemently with the AfD. A popular drugstore chain then said it also rejected the idea of a polarising firewall.
The counter-argument is that you do not normalise a party that maybe not in its policy programme, but in its content and in its speeches and in its rank and file has a lot of people that oppose fundamentally the basic law, the Constitution of Germany, things like the equality of all citizens.
Indeed, some businesses took this line. Rossmann, another popular drugstore chain, simply said it didn't support the actions of the association and ended its membership with the Association of Family Businesses. The nation's largest lender, Deutsche Bank, announced it would no longer provide event space for the group. The association would go on to say the invitation proved to be a mistake. But the AfD itself suggested what many observers have wondered: how much of the latest episode is part of a public ritual.
Someone makes a point of engaging with the largest opposition and strongest party in Germany, which makes perfect sense and is legitimate. Then there has to be an apology statement and a mea culpa, we won't do it again. I know the Family Business Association, and we've been in informal contact with German businesses for years anyhow.
I think what's still unclear is the extent to which the leadership in this association really acted on its own. We know, of course, that typically these industry groups act with the support of their member businesses. But on many things, from day-to-day business, you can, of course, poll all of your perhaps thousands of members on every single issue. In that case, it's plausible to imagine that some businesses may have been surprised by the fact that it took place or by that vocal response, and that they may also see a kind of risk in their affiliation with that.
Businesses also have very different outlooks when asked privately. A 2024 survey of 1,000 businesses found that only a slight majority believed companies and industry groups should position themselves against the AfD.
For all the talk about the differences between the AfD and business interest, we see overlap in areas such as taxes. The AfD argues that they need to be brought down, which is something that businesses would have an interest in generally. Also, when it comes to energy costs, that's been a really big issue over the past few years for Germany.
Business sentiment has also been souring. The economy is performing poorly and the government slow to react.
A lot of business leaders are frustrated because they are used to addressing issues that come up in their companies and to act quickly, and they are frustrated. So they are looking, maybe some of them are looking for something else, but I think most of them, and I'm sure most of them, understand that the AfD is probably not the solution.
Others warn it's a dangerous path.
Can you really hope to negotiate away the political differences through direct contact? Not a chance. The Family Business Association also can't do that. This whole episode is a huge disaster, and that's only benefited the AfD in the end.
What's clear is the debate within the business world echoes the larger one in society.
Increasingly out with the political sphere, people are wrestling with the question of the success of the AfD. How do we deal with it? Because there's a consensus, or there's a growing feeling that the plan as we've been on until now simply isn't working. And you can see as well that the AfD's attempts to normalise themselves are having success.
Which means debates like the most recent one are likely to only get fiercer.